Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya Van Biesen, President and CEO of VersaFi, and let me start by welcoming everyone to this webinar. We are actually really excited today to talk about, I would say, a topic that we don't talk about enough, number one, and there are lots and lots of people signing into the webinar, so hopefully we will pick up people as we go. We are expecting over 300 people to join us today, so a huge welcome to everyone who is here. I am honored to be moderating a conversation with three senior women from the regulatory space. So I will start by introducing our panelists, and then hopefully we will take you through a bit of a journey of their careers, what motivated them to go into, and in many cases, make the shift into the regulatory space. The skills and experiences that they've gathered that they feel have been really instrumental and important for them to excel in this area. And then if we have time at the end, we will do a little bit of rapid fire questioning. Now, throughout the webinar, you have an opportunity to ask questions. So note at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A button. And please feel free to add questions there. We will be monitoring that, and I'll do my best to monitor that as we're going through the conversations. But we really are encouraging of you to share your perspectives. We want to get to as many questions as we can, so I encourage you to do that. So with that, let me start by introducing our esteemed panelists. I will start with Louise Hamel, who is Vice President Compliance at CIRO. Louise started her career at the Ombudsman for Banking. Oh, Louise, remind me, OBSI, Banking.
Ombudsman for investment services, banking and investment services.
Thank you. Thank you. I should remember that. And then you built your career beyond that at TD Waterhouse and then at BMO Nesbitt Burns, and then you joined CIRO, and you are also the executive sponsor of the newly launched Women's ERG at CIRO, which we will talk about in a minute. So thank you for being here, Louise, and welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, and then Suzanne Lasrado, who's Vice President, Member Services, Strategy and Innovation at CIRO, started her career in audit and then actually moved to CIRO over 20 years ago. So she is the real veteran at CIRO here, and certainly an expert in women in the regulatory environment. So welcome, Suzanne. And by the way, she's wearing the Power Pink jacket today.
Thank you. Yes, thanks for having me. And yes, pink.
And then Leslie Byberg, who many of you probably know. She is Executive Vice President, Strategic Regulation at the OSC. Leslie started her career as a lawyer in private practice and then moved to the OSC and has held a whole range of positions at the OSC over time. Leslie, it is wonderful to have you join us in this conversation.
Thanks so much. It's a real pleasure to be here.
So we've got pink and red covered today. Hopefully all of you in the audience are wearing something color related, purple maybe related to International Women's Day. I did mention at the outset that Louise is the executive sponsor at CIRO for the newly launched Women's ERG. So we are also celebrating the launch of that employee resource group today. And I'm sure, Louise, maybe you'll have a few words to say about that, but we do encourage those who are from CIRO on the call today to get involved in that employee resource group. Okay, and with that, we have a bunch of questions, or I have a bunch of questions for our panelists so that all of you in the audience can learn more about their career journeys and their roles in the regulatory space. So maybe, Suzanne, I will start with you. I wonder if you could share a bit about your career journey and what led you into this world, the regulatory world, and what influenced you, that even your decision to go in and work for a regulator.
Yeah, absolutely. So I often say, I wandered into regulation by accident and then stayed on purpose, because, there's not a lot of, little girls dream every way to say, oh, one day I want to be in regulation.
Will be after today, but okay, I think. Yeah.
I know, exactly, right? But I think sort of I want to say my career journey sort of, I started when I immigrated to Canada as a young adult. I was 21 when I came to this country. And I also come from a low income family background. So stability mattered when I was picking my job. And so like many Canadians, right? We don't really have the luxury of pursuing a dream job. So what mattered to me was something practical that would pay the bills, that was going to create professional opportunity for me. And that's why I picked auditing and accounting. It was a direct path to a professional career that, that I thought would provide opportunity for me. And so I became a CA. Now, like most people who have done auditing in firms, you'll know that there's nothing like counting shampoo bottles at a Shoppers Drug Mart at 6 a.m. on New Year's Day. That's going to bring real clarity to what you want to do with your life. And so I joined the Investment Dealers Association. It was at the time back in 2005. Again, just because there was a job out there that looked like it aligned with my skills. And I said, sure, why not? Let's just check it out. And then almost, trying to pick a job because you're trying to run away from something, I don't know how other people get into their roles, but that was, how I started working there. And I unexpectedly loved it. I think the way regulation works, it appealed so much to who I am, how my brain works. It's about systems and incentives and outcomes, and it requires you to listen to every single point of view and every perspective out there, and then weigh them and figure out what the right path forward is, in relation to public interest. And to me, that sort of it was such an intellectually fascinating exercise as well. That's what's sort of kept me at the organization all of these years. And so I've been sort of, just personally been, like I call it Pac-Manning my way through it. Like I've been moving up and around the organization laterally and above and sometimes hitting walls, but, all the way up to where I am today. But started in prudential regulation, was in strategy at IROC, and now what I do is the innovation, which is super exciting. Yeah, but that's essentially in a nutshell my career path.
Okay, I love that story because you've pulled on a bunch of threads, including kind of you like an ordered world, but this is a very nuanced environment. So there's probably some chaos, and bringing order to that chaos
Exactly.
is some of the, like, you like that complexity. So,
Exactly.
okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Leslie, what about you? What brought you here?
So before I do that, I just want to thank CIRO and VersaFi for the opportunity to join this panel today with these wonderful women. I love working with you, and it's just a real pleasure to have this conversation with you all today. So my experience was, so as you mentioned, Tanya, off the top, I am a lawyer, and I was the first lawyer in my family, and really the first person to have done a sort of post-graduate program. And so I didn't have any, known pathway, certainly for that career, but anything kind of like that in my immediate midst and my family experience, that type of thing. So I really was going into it, as a first timer, just trying to figure out what am I going to do with this career. And I guess I will say, my outlook was very open, and my mind was open to where this could go. And I had a typical articling experience, and then found my way into a practice area that really fit for me because it was interesting and I loved the people I was working with. And it just so happens that it had to do with mutual funds and asset management and things that were, I guess I have to admit how long ago this was, but it was a long time ago. But it was when the industry was really just starting to grow and boom. And so I kind of, became very interested in the area. But so I did start in private practice in the private sector, and worked in a couple of different capacities there for over 10 years. So I got the perspective of advising clients and understanding, what their needs were. And then I moved to the industry association for the industry, and started to understand the policy side of things a little more. But I also started to understand, I think, in a broader way, just the functioning of the industry and the business, which was super interesting to me. And after 10 years, it just felt like a natural step that the regulatory perspective, putting that hat on and understanding what it looks like to be the regulator, to be the maker of the policy, the enforcer of the policy, was super interesting. And I say all this because the area I was working in, I really understood is, a representation of how capital markets had become more democratized. Like regular people were getting into the markets through funds and through other ways. And it was just a really interesting time, right? It was not only people getting in, but also that invites all of the investor protection and other considerations that are necessary as you think about people, investing for their own futures, investing for their kids, that type of thing, in ways that they hadn't done before. So this was all this was just a timing thing. I was lucky to have been in my career at that time, getting these experiences. So I kind of caught that wave and really loved that part of the work. So when I joined the OSC, I felt like I could bring the things I had learned from those other pathways and bring that to bear in the regulatory world. And I had interacted with the OSC before coming over, so I had a sense of the folks there and the work. But it wasn't really till I was in it that I got the deeper appreciation. So it satisfied many things for me. One, being able to understand that the work that we do has impact. I think Suzanne and Louise would agree that what we do is often sort of unseen. The work we do can be unseen, but it is highly impactful and important to regular people who you walk past on the street and don't know that what you're doing every day is protecting them or supporting their experience in the capital markets. And that is just still, I'm talking about joining in 2003. I still feel this energized by the mandate now, as I hope you can hear. So I really understood that and thought, well, this is amazing. So then I came into the OSC, and Suzanne mentioned moving laterally and having an interesting Pac-Man career. I had similar. I have made many lateral moves within the OSC, and that's one thing I like to tell people. I have moved laterally at least 3 times. And so for people who wonder about that and how that represents career growth, I'm a perfect example of and a big fan of how lateral moves can be such an important way to grow your career. It involves taking some risk, moving into things you don't really know very well, and learning. And so I was able to have a wonderful many careers within a career at the OSC. I've worked in at least 4 different groups, and I've had the chance and gave myself, I guess, the opportunity to be considered for an executive position 10 years ago, which I have been in since then. So, and since the last 10 years, I've been the ED and CAO, and then various iterations of executive roles since then. So it's been a wide-ranging, highly satisfactory career, and for me, it just meeting all the marks of work that matters, work that is important, work that is mission-driven and challenging and intellectually stimulating and vibrant and very intense sometimes, but also work with people who share a similar mindset. And anyone who has worked with me or knows me, I love working with people. It's the best thing about work. So, the chance to work in an organization where I feel like I have such wonderful colleagues, it's just been the best.
Leslie, you've touched on so many important things that maybe I can just pull on a couple of those strings. So first of all, I think the regulatory environment as infrastructure, critical infrastructure to our markets, I think you talked about, and that is so often not discussed in a fulsome way. And people don't understand that without a strong regulatory environment, the markets can't work well. And for the retail investor in particular, that can be a very scary other side of the coin. So there is really strong mission work. I also think you touched on 2 other things that I think are so important, or maybe 3. One is early in your career, you were kind of one of one, and so you didn't have that community of other people to sort of rely on and share, bounce ideas off of, and that's certainly one of the big reasons why VersaFi exists, right? We have 4,000 members across the country to make sure that people like you don't feel like that. Working with people and working with smart people, I also think is something that the regulatory environment doesn't get celebrated for, right? Incredibly smart people go into this industry. I think sometimes there's a perception that that's not the case, but there are incredibly smart people that you're working with. And you're working with people. Like, it's not just numbers and figures. And so I appreciate you bringing all that out. Okay, Louise, let me turn to you. Tell us a bit about your story.
Okay, a little bit like Suzanne, compliance was not a choice for me initially. I worked in many different business lines. I actually started at TD Waterhouse when I first moved in to Toronto at a time where I could barely speak English. So if you recognize an accent, it's because I'm French initially. And I did many different business line, mid-office, But a lot of my work was around the rules, the requirements, handling complaints. You mentioned the OBSI, regulatory complaints, regulatory investigation. And I've done so many roles every year and a half to 2 years. I was moving into a new area, always with in mind, what can I learn from that area? Oh, I know the OEO business, and I could learn the full brokerage business. Oh, I could learn compliance. So when I was asked to join compliance, I thought, I'm going to get that experience fully into compliance and I'm going to get to manage a bigger team. So, bonus. And then once I got into compliance, I realized, okay, I think that might be the area for me. And I've mentioned many times before, I've got a brother that's always been risk. All I want to do is credit and risk management, and that's all he's done his entire career. And he kind of always questioned me because I moved around so much and I didn't really know what I really wanted to do. But I went by elimination every time. Oh, I like managing people, not so much individual contributor. Oh, I like compliance. I like looking at the requirements and making sure we do what's right and we've got the right structure and the right process to achieve that. So when I moved into CIRO, which was IROC at the time, it was a little bit of a, oh, now I get to see the other side. But at the same time, it was, okay, I can get to set expectation for an entire industry and thinking about doing what's right and protecting investor instead of doing it for one little business line. I can do that for an entire industry. And that was really appealing to me. And I love everything that you said, Leslie. And I think coming to the regulator, you can actually shape the environment and build the future of regulation as opposed to just responding to it like you do when you're part of a business that's trying to follow the regulatory requirement. You can actually shape the industry. And I think that's very exciting. And you're right, Tanya. There's so many fantastic, smart people at the regulators. I don't think I realized that when I joined. It's
Oh,
like,
see, there you
oh, I
go.
was blown away.
Preconceived bias. Okay. You,
And
you touched,
Tanya, can
yeah,
I say,
yeah.
like,
Go ahead.
like one of the things that I just wanted to point out, and I know we talked about this as well, is like this, just so you know, for someone like me, this is a full circle moment because you joined regulation, you see someone like Leslie Byberg, who is just absolutely incredible, breaking every barrier you can see, rising up to the top. And I know we talk about representation, but for me, this is a full circle moment, sitting on this kind of stage, so to speak, with someone like her as a sort of a leader in regulation. I just want to call that out. Like that is so inspiring and important for, at least for my journey as well. Like I do want to highlight that. Sorry, Leslie, if I embarrassed
Great.
you, but truth
Uh,
has to be
no,
told.
it's so nice of you to say that. I do appreciate that, and I just what I wanted to say was, Louise, you talked about how you can shape the direction in such a big way, and I think it's exemplified by who you're talking to today. Because for all of us, our roles involve aspects of forward-looking, future-oriented regulation. So I mean, I didn't say this off the top, but and we can talk about it a bit more later. But the fact that where I've come to my career in the OSC is leading a team that is about foresight and looking down the road and building a regulatory system and to anticipate what's coming next. I mean, it couldn't be more exciting. So just to say, like we are in organizations that care about that aspect of the work and have put structures in place and these were things I can say that were not present say 20 or over 20 years ago, but they're here now. So for people thinking again about career paths, just the number of doorways and opportunities is just so incredibly vast now.
I'm glad you said that, Leslie, because I was thinking the same, Louise, as you were talking, that this bird's eye view that you all have, right? It's a very unique perspective over the whole market as opposed to being in an individual firm. And I mean, there can be wonderful careers within individual firms, but that this is one of the benefits of being in a regulator where you have that perspective that really no one else has. So I appreciate you pulling that out. Maybe Louise, I'll start with you and we'll popcorn back. But was there a pivotal moment or a decision in your career that led you down a certain path or that shaped the path that you're on today? And if so, can you tell us a bit about that story?
Um, yeah, there's actually a couple. So, one of them was I was asked at one point to take over what we call direct channels and insurance compliance. And for those who know me, digital apps and technology is not necessarily my forte. I'm not I'm not the the most knowledgeable one in those areas, and I don't have any insurance background either. So it was very daunting and scary for me to, but it was moving me into a more senior role. I was getting an executive position, so I couldn't really pass it on. Um, so I went for it, trying to figure out how to build this compliance program from scratch. And I'm more of a fixer too. I like to go into an area, fix it, look at the structure, the process, the people, organize it. And then I was like going into whiteboarding a compliance program while trying to manage another compliance area that I knew nothing about. So, um, very scary, but at the same time, I think when you push yourself out of your comfort zone like that, it helps build your strength, it helps build your confidence. I realize if you surround yourself with the right people, you can do whatever you want. Eventually, you figure it out and you'll find the support that you need along the way. You build a relationship that you need and you can get it done. So that was very a pivotal moment for me where I stopped worrying about what I didn't know and what I couldn't do, and just went in there with my eyes closed, thinking, I'm going to figure it out. I'm smart enough. And it actually went really well. So, and
Probably your brother was probably having multiple heart attacks as you were doing it.
oh,
Good for you.
he definitely was like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? But it worked out really well for me because I realized I could do it. And when I left that role, I said, "Hey, I've set up the baseline. Um, take the program, enhance it, take it further than I could." Because by then I was moving into a CCO role for one of the wealth businesses. So I told my colleague, do that. But I was proud that I figured it out with a team of great people. And it worked out really well for me. And it really helped build my character and my confidence. And I think that's why I felt like I could take this role when I moved to CIRO, because there were a time where I was like, well, I don't think I know enough about regulation. Yes, I've been working in the industry a long time, but I'm not a regulator.
Right.
And right, you join here, I'm like, okay, I've got smart people like Suzanne Lazarado around me. How am I gonna do that? But like you have to stretch yourself, you have to get out of your comfort zone and figure out what you can learn out of that experience, out of that pivotal moment, and just run with it.
So you tested yourself and built some resilience in doing that. Yeah.
Yes, and I did that time and time over again, honestly. So that's why I'm saying, like you're more capable than you think. Just go for it. Try
Yeah.
it. Don't wait to be sure that you can do it. You'll figure it out. You'll be able to do it.
It's great. Suzanne, what about you?
So it's interesting because as I think about this, I think I think the biggest, most pivotal moment to me, if I had to pick one, was when I was in FinOps and the vice president at the time just started giving me increasingly challenging work to do. And
Financial operations, right?
yes, and
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain this, but the that belief, I think, changed the whole trajectory of what I wanted to do. Because again, it's my background, right? My perspective. I'm sort of looking for stability. I come from a low income, background, and the first thing in my mind is always, I want to make sure I'm secure in this job, right? And you're not looking to rock the boat. Taking risks is hard for someone like me. And there was this leader who is just aggressively encouraging me to do more and and he was noticing the things that I was doing. And I know there's loads of people out there that are self-motivated and they will believe in themselves even when no one else does. And I am not. I was not one of those people. And so to me, that was the most pivotal moment because I don't know that I would be or feel the confidence to actually aspire to more and to do more crazy, audacious things that I do today in innovation if it wasn't for that kind of crazy mad faith that he had in me and my abilities. And it completely informs my leadership style today, like absolutely in every possible way. It's like just just have faith and confidence in someone and allow them to just take risks, fail, not spectacularly, but fail, pick yourself up, because it's amazing what confidence in a person will do in terms of allowing that person to stretch and be the best person they can possibly be.
What an
So,
amazing example to pick
uh,
up on the International Women's Day theme of give to gain. That person gave you something and both of you
100%. I
gained.
tell him all the time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sorry, Louise, go ahead.
well, I was just going to add, Tanya, because I probably should have started my moment with that, but one of the reason why I felt able to take on that role that I knew nothing about was because I had somebody, my previous leader, who believed in me way more than I did and had stretched me in my previous role and was encouraging me to go for it. I'm not sure if that leader wasn't there, I'm not sure I would have gone for it at all. And so having that very strong woman behind me, believing in me more than I did at the time, is really what pushed me. And from there on, that's how I've been able to push my boundaries after that.
Yeah. And I think what I heard is so both great examples of sponsorship, gender balanced. So sponsorship belongs to everybody, not just a single gender. So all genders are welcome to be sponsors. Leslie, what about you? Is there a pivotal moment in your career that shaped your path?
There were. I mean, I could give several examples, but I thought I would focus on a couple in the OSC, and they are very similar to what Louise and Suzanne have talked about. They both involved situations of allyship and mentorship, sponsorship. Use all of those words, but someone more senior, either in a, I would say, even kind of a tough love sort of way, saying you need to do something else. You need to try something else. So these were obviously people who I think saw that, I was very happy doing what I was doing, say in a particular role, and thinking, why change this? This is great. I'm very comfortable and very happy. But I will always credit and be thankful for two people here who I think saw that I had potential to try some different things, and really, that strong hand kind of on your back, propelling you to go into the unknown, a little bit or a lot, and see what you can do. I needed that. I think some people have that innately and they just propel themselves forward, but probably most people need some encouragement. And so you get that validation that there's someone who's, as both Louise and Susanna said, someone who sees something in you, and they think you can do it. And I would say going into the executive role, that I started in 10 years ago, that was probably one of the most pivotal moments, because I think it's fair to say I had the imposter syndrome issue at that time. And I did what I think is very typical. The span of the role was quite big in terms of having regulatory responsibilities, but also administrative responsibilities. So, it was a very expansive role, and I had experience in some, but certainly not all of the areas. And so I think that's very typical to say, well, I think I could do part of that, but I don't know about the whole thing. And I sought out and received advice from trusted people in my domain, in my sort of circle, people who I think could, speak truth to me, and I looked for that, and then I thought, we don't get to time these opportunities. So when they come, you do just sometimes have to take that leap of faith and say, people are telling me, I think, you could maybe try this. And why don't I? And so I'm really grateful for that because, I sort of trusted my instincts, but I also listened to people. And I got over the imposter syndrome through, probably like we all do, just through getting into a role and actually really understanding what it is. And I had the great fortune, and still do, of work. I was going into a role where I knew the team, and this is an amazing, excellent team of leaders. So you have all of that confidence, that you're going to be able to work with them and learn from them. And I would say, any leader, doesn't matter what level of leadership you're in, you're always learning, for one thing, and you're learning from all of your team members. So I'm a big fan of that as well. So I guess my reflection is, I did sort of trust my judgment. It was a big leap. I had all of those typical doubts. And then this has been touched on, but getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, which, you know, I know we say it, but really you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, not to the point where you're so stressed out that it just really is unpleasant and you're not enjoying your work life, because I really care about the fact that we should enjoy and love what we do as much as we can. But getting comfortable with that state of, well, I don't quite know everything, but I'm learning, and I know I can learn, and I also know how I can work with a team. So I would say that was a really pivotal moment for me, and I'm so thankful for it, because I get to now reflect on, after 10 years, just what a fantastic journey that has been.
Gift to gain. But you said something really interesting around some tough love. And I do think sometimes we imagine that things like mentorship and sponsorship are all going to come in warm kumbaya packages where someone is sort of wrapping their arms around you. And I actually think sometimes they can come in tough love packages where you feel quite uncomfortable, or someone is pushing you really to the edge of the branch and you're feeling, unsafe out there. And yet they are, they believe. So I would say to everyone, don't always expect that those things are going to come in nice, shiny, warm packages, because they can come differently, and yet still have a tremendous effect on your career. I mean, Leslie, you started down this path, but I do wonder for each of you, as you reflect on your careers to date, if you were speaking to your younger self or those who are earlier in career on this call, what advice would you give them? What are the things that, what are the things that you wish you would know, and what is the advice that you think they need to hear in order to grow into leadership roles in their careers? So maybe, Louise, why don't I start with you?
There's so many things we could say around that with all the years of experience and the learnings that I've had over the years. But for me, one of them would be build breadth. And it's probably because of that story with my brother was one path and I was not. But having done so many different roles in so many different areas, I've built enough breadth to have this bigger picture understanding that, especially I think as a regulator, you need to have. You need to understand the ecosystem. You need to, right? You can get into conduct, technology, operations, emerging trends, prudential risk. So having breadth really was key to help me in my role here as a regulator. I think another thing that's been critical for me over the years is building relationship, whether it's, that mentor that gave you the tough love, or whether it's the sponsor that speak about you in a certain way that helps you move along. But it's also like when you're in a business, if you build the right relationship, you can get things done. That's how you get things done at the pace that you need to. And as a regulator, understanding the industry realities and building that trust with the stakeholders, I think also helps push your mandate forward. I think it's very important. And maybe I'll add one last thing just because it's important to me. For me, over the years, my value and what I think is right has been very critical in every decisions that I've made, regardless of the roles that I've been in. And I think it's important for whoever is listening to think about that and say, if it's not something that aligns with your value. If it doesn't feel right to you, it's either not the right environment or the right role, or it's, something that you need to stand up for yourself and put the boundaries and set, draw the line in the sand. So I think understanding your value and keeping your integrity is critical. I've always done that, and it actually helped me over the years, even if it was in a situation where I was putting my line on the sand and setting the boundaries. So that's I'll stop there because there's many
Okay, no, that's great.
to say, but
No,
these would be my top ones
your
for now.
advice. Okay. Suzanne, what about you as you reflect? What do you wish you had known, and what advice would you give?
Yeah, I think, just sort of lifting off of, what Louise is talking about, and then sort of comments that Leslie and I made earlier too, right? I think if you have the option, try lots of things.
Mm.
Because you don't really know what you like and what will excite you unless you're trying lots of different things. And someone said this to me once when I was angling for promotion. They said, moving upwards, does not necessarily mean a vertical move up. It could mean a lateral move as well, because all of that helps build. And at the time I was a little salty, but it was absolutely right. Is the right thing. And so like I think it's important to sort of, if you have that option, try out lots of different things, even in the same organization if they have those resources. I mean, and if you're down a path that you didn't expect, don't sweat it. I mean, like you can always pivot. I mean, Harrison Ford got his big break, what, when he was 35, and he's one of the biggest movie stars even today. Like, also, and I'm going to say this, like, it's super practical and it might not be terribly inspiring, but there's no such thing as a perfect job. And everybody is, I mean, unless you're looking after therapy dogs, because that would be a perfect job. But it's like, oh my God, just thinking about it now. But everybody is in a job for a different reason, right? There are some that are doing it because it inspires them, and some are in it because they need it. That's okay. There's no wrong reason, but you have to know yourself. You have to know be honest and self-aware about what it is you're looking for, and that's what you should focus on. So, for example, if you're looking to get into innovation, you have to know that this is something that requires you to be excited by change and disruption. You have to be willing to say yes, even if it's uncomfortable. You have to be able to live in this world of constant change, because if that is going to fatigue you and you're going to feel inclined to say no to things or delay them because it's like, just get out of innovation. It's not for you. It is not just for your own mental health, but just please get out of the way of people trying to make change. So it's as an example. So, but you have to know yourself,
Mm.
and to know yourself and what excites you, you have to try out lots of things
Yeah.
if you
But
can.
okay, that's a great point. And you used Harrison Ford as an example. I would not have been able to conjure that one, I think, as quickly as you. But I'm going to use you as an example because you just finished telling us that your pathway was through stability and, certainty.
Yes.
And yet now you are in an innovation role and you get excited by change and kind of the electricity of change. So all of these things can be true within one person. It's opening doors and figuring out what, what you're drawn to and maybe stage of life and all those things. But you have to open the doors.
Great observation. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Leslie, what about you? Any reflections on what you wish you would have known or
Well,
you would give?
Well, and I mean, again, Louise and Suzanne just said some brilliant things, and I'm nodding my head, hopefully, at everything they said, because I was, without comparing notes, like the things that we have will mention are very similar. So, I think it, if I think back, I would have thought a lot more about deliberately seeking out sponsorship and champions. I found them, and maybe I think we probably all have an innate way that we connect, obviously, with other humans. And I think in my different roles, I found people where I felt a strong connection, and in some cases those people happen to be people who could be a sponsor for me or a champion. But first and foremost, feeling that this was someone I just really who understood me was important. And then if that led to someone who could also be like a career guide or sponsor, or just someone who could be a wise person to me, was a bonus. But looking back, I wish I had thought more about like really deliberately seeking out folks like that sooner. And then of course, understanding what I was supposed to do in that relationship. I will admit, like I really didn't know. I think I just felt my way through things very, what's the word, but just in a way that made sense for me, but without a real like hard and fast plan. And I'm kind of proud of that now, because I think that was in keeping with who I am. And I do believe that Suzanne and Louise drawing out, like, just understand who you are. And, look, we have to go to work and be at work for many, many hours every day, every week, every year. Like, you need to just feel really good about being yourself at work, and, knowing that you can go in there and be the person that you are at work. And it's work, so you understand how you navigate relationships, and you navigate matters and things, and we all understand how to do that as professionals. But as people, just being able to be your authentic self and know you feel good about that every day, it's always been important to me at work. Taking stretch assignments, going out of your comfort zone, seeking those out. I wish I had thought a little bit more planfully about how I could do that. Again, I think I managed to find my way, but I would have maybe done that in a bit more of a structured way. The breadth of experience to me is huge. It demonstrates many things. You're afraid to try something and not afraid to fail at it. You are adaptable. It shows that you have smarts and flexibility to learn things that may be way outside of your zone. And I think that gets noticed. And so just doing those things and accepting where that could take you is really important. I think it's really important to get speaking and presenting experience, depending on the career you have. It doesn't matter even really what your role is, but being able to put your best self forward and feel really confident about any interaction you're having. It could be a one-on-one, a small meeting, a board meeting, a conference, depending on your career. But just getting that experience, that might be many people's least favorite thing to do. But it's really important that you can do it well and effectively, because that's your opportunity to show people yourself and what you know and who you are. And so the more you do it and the more experience you get, just the better. So I just really encourage people to find ways to get that experience. Get coaching. If you're in a workplace where they will give you career and leadership coaching, take it every time and make the most of it. I've had it many times, and I have just found it so incredibly valuable. And do leadership programs. We can get the innate experiential training in work and in roles, but go and take some programs. You get to meet other leaders, you expand your network, but you also learn a thing or two. Like, you might think you've learned a lot, but you can learn more. My last advice to myself, and I am taking this advice, but just taking a cross-generational view and keep those connections. Like, that's one of the things I love about my job is, despite my roles changing, I really just enjoy working with everyone, and just staying connected with kind of different generations in the workplace, if I can put it that way, is really important to me. It keeps my feet on the ground.
Yeah, and you can learn so much from
Yeah.
people come from different perspectives.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pick up on what you were saying around developing your communication skills. I mean, at the end of the day, you don't necessarily have to be someone who gets up and gives a TED talk, but your ability to articulate your thoughts or a compelling idea in a way that the audience can hear and act on, I think, and that could be an audience of one, it could be an audience of 5, it could be an audience of 500. But I do think you're right that as you get more senior in your career, that's a really critical skill, and that can be built through these leadership programs and through your networks. And so it's a very good call out. I just want to acknowledge. Oh, Louise, go ahead.
Well, can I add to that, Tanya?
Yeah.
Because I like what Leslie just said, and I think being authentic and bring yourself to work is critical. But along with the leadership training and leadership courses, like, you also learn self-reflection. And I think that's really important. Like, you can get as much coaching as you want. If you don't stop and think about it and self-reflect, it might not help. And I'm a huge fan of observing people around me. What did they do well? How did they do it? And try to learn from that. So, for example, Suzanne over here is very, very good at diffusing bad situation or meetings that are difficult. She's really, really good at that. Meanwhile, I might say, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Suzanne's going to say, right. So what about that too? So, right, I observe things like that, people around me, and what I can learn from that, and then try to apply it. And I think it's critical for people to know that because, along with your coaching that you get from others, learn from that, learn from how others react, and keep working on yourself. It's not just learning, right, the breadth and businesses and regulations and things like that, but yourself as well.
It's a
Oh,
great point because
huge fan of borrowing from other people. I mean,
yes,
just to return that same compliment, just to be clear, Louise and I've had this conversation before where it's like I've learned to be way more direct and brave in making uncomfortable, statements from her, instead of sort of trying to always try and word it in a nice way and diffuse things, yeah. Just to
Not
be
sure
clear.
that sounds good here, but thank you anyway.
I mean, it's a great way to build a playbook, right? It's a play, like, and you start to borrow from others and then make it your own. It's never going to look or feel or sound exactly like the other person because, to all of your points, it's about who you are and your integrity. And but it's a great way to be a sponge of other strong skills. I just want to acknowledge we have two comments in the Q&A. One is a suggestion for a book called "Say It Well" by Terry Sublat. Hopefully I've pronounced that correctly. And I think that speaks back to how, how you can build your ability to articulate yourself strongly. And then we also had a question around so all of you have taken some risk in your careers, right? You've talked about pivots and risks you've taken. And this question has to do with what can organizations and senior leaders do to reduce those risks? Certainly when you think about people who have they if the risk doesn't work out, like they have maybe families they're supporting or they're supporting themselves. So is there something organizations can do to help protect the downside of a risk, maybe if you're taking on a new role, so that the person is not maybe left without at the end of the 3 to 6 months? Have you seen anything in organizations? And I don't know who wants to take a crack at that.
I can, oh, did you want to go,
No,
Suzanne?
no, go. I think we're going to say the same thing. Go ahead, Louise. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if there's particular things for that, but like you can structure secondment opportunities, for
I was
example.
just
If
going to say.
somebody is interested in an area, they're not 100% sure, they're adaptable, they're flexible, they've got skills. So yes, let's do secondment, go learn there. Or I think taking on like projects or specific initiatives, right? There's something big happening for a certain period of time. We need help with this project or this initiative to do XYZ. If you have somebody with potential that has an interest in that area, then okay, go there, help with that project or initiative, and then you can come back to this role and or potentially other opportunity comes out of that after. So there's probably other ways. Like this is a couple of ways that I can think of where it's not permanent. It's a initiative. It's a time bound, and then it gives an opportunity to go test your skill and but still have the safety of your role and your environment.
Great advice.
I would just echo, and I've done two secondments myself earlier in my career, and I couldn't think of a better way to get the chance to not just dip your toe in, but fully go into something, but know that you would be returning to your home role. You get that ability to build out your experience and just your breadth and scope in a great way. I'm a fan of structured opportunities, if I can put it that way, where there's some risk because you're asking people to go in and do something, but you're mitigating the downside risk as much as you can and setting people up for success, which was what we should be doing, right? Like you're asking someone to take something on or they're putting themselves out there, like you want to support them as much as possible in being successful. So I think there are structural ways that can be done.
Agree.
Yeah, and I would say that's a good point, Leslie, because I think it's on the organization to determine, like, is this such an unwieldy risk that the probability of failure is extremely high versus this is, it's not I always hate the idea that we're taking a risk on someone, but that we're stretching them in ways that we believe is possible for them, right? Another question from the audience. What advice do you have on how to start a conversation when seeking a sponsor or a champion? And maybe I'll just start by saying we all know that there's some difference between mentorship and sponsorship. Sponsorship is earned through the work and the contributions that you are making. But to this question, you've all had champions in your careers. Is there any advice you would give to folks in the audience about how to cultivate those?
I can start. Go ahead, Suzanne.
No, go ahead, Leslie.
Well, we do a program at the OSC. This is one way to help bring it along, or at least make an initial connection. And then I think there are other things you can do after you've built a connection. But we do a program here just to introduce people to one another, because we're all working on different floors and don't have the chance to bump into each other all that often. It's like a sort of random matching. They match people up randomly for coffees, and I've had coffees over the last 6 years with many people. And I participated. We've done some mentoring programs where you go in and do kind of a speed mentoring type thing where you can have a quick chat. And then if the person thinks, well, here's someone who I think could be a great resource for me, or someone I could talk to, it's a way to at least break the initial ice. So I would encourage, and when we talk to our students and sort of newer folks here, I encourage them to be part of these things, because you can start to make a connection with people in the organization you might not otherwise know how to approach. So it's a great way, again, a structural way to kind of get yourself introduced. And then when someone offers and says, I am here and happy to have a conversation with you about career or anything, anytime, take it. And it can be so, I can imagine it can be so intimidating to think, like, how would I approach that person? But again, we have programs and things built in where that's what we want people to do. And I have also done those as well. So I would just say, find those opportunities where you can get the introduction, and then definitely just take that leap, that bold leap, I guess, and reach out. Somebody who's offering to do it, they mean it.
They want it.
So take them up on it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, essentially, and maybe, sort of leaning on my own experience, just do it, but, don't just randomly go in and call someone. Do the work, understand what it is they do, what it is about, how they do what they do that appeals to you, and why you feel you would benefit under their specific guidance or mentorship. Sell yourself. Sell yourself to them, because I'm telling you, there are leaders out there who are looking for opportunities to, pass on their legacy and their learnings, and to, create sort of, connections that way. So, just go for it. Be audacious. Just do it.
So can I add, just because my answer is a little bit different in that, like, I've never had a formal mentor, and I don't think I've ever been very good at building network and mentorship and things like that. But I did, over the years, identify some individuals that I knew could help me with certain things, and then was not afraid to, or maybe I was, but I did anyway, approach them to say, hey, like, you're very good at this, or you've got skills here. I'm struggling with that. What do you think? Can I pick your brain? And it was never formal mentorship, but it was building those connections for certain things when I need it. And these people always came through. And that's what really helped me over the years. And I've built sponsorship through those, those interaction and those connection, but it was not really coming in to say, do you want to be my mentor? It was more, I want to pick your brain. You've got something that I appreciate, that I need and I need help with, and I think you'd be the perfect person to do that.
It's great. I mean, they're all examples of get yourself known, right? Find ways to learn more about others in the organization, and to ensure that they know something about you. I mean, I would also add to what you all have said is start to tell people what it is you aspire to do, because then that helps people understand, oh, Suzanne is interested in this area, or so, because then they can, when they're in rooms making decisions where you are not present, those are the thoughts that will come to mind. So these are great. Okay, we have two questions and only about 2 minutes. So maybe I'll ask you to do in 10 words or less the following question. What wish do you have for yourself and your career looking forward? Louise.
10 words or less. That's a little. Um, you know what? I want to continue bringing um, like bring my own self 150% of the time and making a difference and knowing that I've got an impact, whether it's on people around me at work or the industry or my role or whatever it is. I want to make sure I continue to make a difference.
Awesome. Leslie.
Oh, same. Yeah, just
That was one word. That's awesome. You passed the test.
over to you, Suzanne.
Leslie, oh my God. Okay, so I think if I want to say something a little bit different, oh my God, so much pressure. I think my hope would be that, the next generation, and especially of women and of people of color, that they won't have to give up anything, or put in any additional tax or labor, that they can bring their full selves to their job and they'll be judged purely on the quality of their work, going forward. And I think it's getting better for every generation. But I think if I was looking forward, my hope, not necessarily just for me, but even for everybody out there, is that we don't, that everybody starts in the same playing field. And I'm not just talking about overt, but I'm talking about unconscious bias as well.
Suzanne should have gone first.
I know. Well, okay, so I think I owe this next one to Leslie. So, Leslie, final question. What would you recommend to someone who is seeking to advance their career, but they're raising a small family, like not a young family, I'm sorry. Any advice or anything personally that you did, and then we'll go out to Louise and Suzanne as well.
Oh, I was wondered if you were going to ask about that. Yeah, I was going to point out that was one of the pivotal aspects of my career path too. Was, it is this thing about life, isn't it? That as you're entering, your profession and you're starting to build your career, it's about the same time that if you were going to have a family, you're probably going to be doing that at the same time, and it becomes the balancing act of all balancing acts. I would say I can just speak from my experience. I was pursuing, growth in my career while my kids were little. Like when I joined the OSC, my daughter was 4 and my son was 1. So I had to make sure that, I had the supports that I was able to put in place. I have an amazing spouse who is a partner in every sense of everything. And that was an essential ingredient for me, just knowing that we were working in partnership with our kids and for our kids. But I would say just, I realize it's really hard, but I think you have to try to find the pathways for your own career aspirations by getting the help that you need and using it. So, and I can say now that my kids are in their later and mid 20s, they're okay. Right? They were like, I had them in daycare. I did all the things that parents do, and I was able to still be there for them, and I think do the things that were really important, and still do, of course. But they're fine.
Okay, thank you. Louise, I want to turn the mic back to you as the ERG executive sponsor to see if you have any closing words. And certainly from VersaFi's perspective, thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to CIRO for your partnership. Leslie, thank you for being here from the OSC. And Louise, I will hand it back to you.
Thank you so much, Tanya. And I know we're out of time, but this is a very exciting time for CIRO. It's our very first Women at CIRO resource group. I think if any of our staff attended this event today, this was one of our first event. We're going to have many more. If you liked what we were saying, or you want to drill down more into some of the topics, then we'll be happy to do that through the Women at CIRO. So reach out to us and join our group, and we'll go from there. And I think it's going to be amazing.
Amazing. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. Happy International Women's Day. Suzanne, Leslie, Louise, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Tanya. You're a fantastic moderator.
Yeah, thank you,
Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.